Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. We have the announcement of the new expansion to look at. It's going to be called Festival of Legends. It's a music-based expansion. Each class is going to be a different genre of music. We've got like Death Knight on metal, Druid on hippie music, hip hop, pop, all sorts here. Very, very cool. It's a very flavorful expansion. Including the new keyword, Finale. Cards with Finale get special bonus if playing them spends all your remaining mana. So you got 2 mana left, you play the 2 mana Finale card, you get the effect as well, which is very, very cool. I've got a couple cards here. This is Power Chord Synchronize, kind of like Power Word. Choose a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. Finale, give both +1/+2, Holy. So this is basically Seance with an additional Finale effect. Now, to get the Finale, it has to be the last card you played, so you kind of need to not play the minion that you add to your hand. So it's a little bit of anti-synergy there, perhaps. And if you use it on an opponent's minion, then you might accidentally buff it, if it's the last thing you do. But it's a flexible card. Buff's not too bad. You get a nice bit of value. Kind of decent. Next we got the Ghostwriter as well. This is 5 mana 4/4 undead. Battlecry, discover a spell. Finale, discover another. So again, if you've got 5 mana left and you play this card, you get to discover twice. 2 spells, which is not too bad. It's not too fantastic either. 5 mana for a 4/4 discover effect. Even if discovering 2 is a little on the slow side nowadays. But maybe in like an undead heavy Blood Decay or something, they would actually be interested in doing something like this to try and find more Vampiric Bloods or something like that. I could definitely see that in that sort of style of deck. Something very slow, but I'm not going to find this in mid-rangey or fast decks, most likely. Also, we've got Legendary Musicians and Songs. Every class is getting a Legendary Minion card that is the class's star musician performing at the Festival of Legends. They also get a legendary spell card, and we can see the spell card for DK here. This is 10 mana Rainbow. I think this is the first card we've seen which has 1 of each rune requirement. So this is Lifesteal, deal 5 damage, summon 2 1/1s. Improved by corpses you spent. So every time you spend a corpse, it's going to up 1 of these numbers. So you could change the deal 5, could change the summon 2 to summon more. And it can change each of the attack or the health of this. So it doesn't just +1/+1 it. You could end up with like a 5/1, for instance, or you could end up with a 2/6 or something like that. How good is this card? I'm not too sure. I've also a confirmation that you cannot discover this card from like Vizier or anything like that. So you have to exclusively be playing Rainbow DK to get it. And it's going to cost you 10 mana to even do it. So, I don't know. Is it even that good? They don't have Rush or anything. You do get life still, so it's kind of like a Sire Denatrius kind of thing. Where it can stabilize you if you get the deal damage quite high. It's kind of like a Sire Denatrius in a way. I believe it will also be improved while it's in your deck as well. Not just in hand, but I don't have confirmation on that. I think that's how it's going to work. So, yeah, potential finisher, but you do have to be playing Rainbow DK. And that itself is kind of a big downside. So we'll see. But very, very cool card. Also got a new keyword as well with the Finale for Priests, which is Overheal. So whenever you heal something above its max health, it triggers the Overheal. So, for instance, this minion, it's 4 mana 4/8. Battlecry, deal 4 damage to this minion. So it's a 4/4 for 4, which you can heal up. And if you overheal it, deals 5 damage to a random enemy. And this effect can trigger multiple times. So whenever you're healing above its max, if you've healed it already once to its max and it triggers, and it's on full health, then you put another heal effect on it, it will trigger it again. So you could potentially have a turn where you overheal this a lot of times, and then it'll be kind of like a Lady Steno effect to kill your opponent that way. Also much stronger if you like copy this effect and do it on both of them. I have a sneaking suspicion that Circle of Healing will be coming back to the core set because of this card. This is kind of like Blade Master Circle of Healing sort of thing. And it will trigger the overheal effect. So I think that probably will happen. But we shall see. Kind of cool effect. We've got instrument weapons as well. Each class is going to get a special weapon. It's not going to be a legendary this time, like in KNC, but they're getting rare or epic weapons for each class, which are all going to be musical instruments, which will be pretty cool to play with sounds. Everyone's going to be playing like metal riffs, I guess, for the DK. Oh. Sorry, my phone went off then. What was I saying? Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Everyone gets a musical instrument. They seem to all have death rattle effects attached to each one of them, but they improve while the weapon's in play. And it says definitely while the weapon's in play. So for this one, the Record Scratcher for the Rogue class, death rattle refresh 1 mana crystal, play combo cards while equipped to improve. You're going to want to be equipping this early, I suppose, and then doing your big pop-off turn, then breaking the weapon and you get to go again. Kind of like Bleach in Priest, to do one big pop-off turn, and that might be very, very strong in combination with Draka effects, kind of like the Graveyard, but it's not so great exactly with Draka because this itself is a weapon. So if you've swung with this, you can't swing with Draka as well. But potentially with the Sinstone Graveyard, very, very strong. Or with just some big, I don't know, combo turn. It doesn't look like a generally good weapon. 3 mana 2/2 weapon, refresh 1, it's like whatever. But potentially a big pop off because there's things like Ghostly Strike and Gone Fishing still available to Rogue, which are very, very cheap combo cards. Got the Arcanite Ripper for DK. Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 lifesteal undead. Change your health on your turn while equipped to improve. So that's going to make it a 2/2, a 3/3, etc. Pretty decent value for a weapon. And the undead does have lifesteal, which is pretty nice. Keep you alive. So straight up, if you just equip this and swing into a minion, which is likely what you're going to be doing as a Blood DK a lot of the time, it's going to summon at least a 2/2 on its Death Rattle, which is pretty good for a 3 mana weapon. But of course you can use a whole host of different lifesteal or life gain effects or what have you in a control Blood DK deck to improve this a lot. So this is potentially going to summon a very, very large minion, particularly if you combo it with like Blood Boil. I'm not sure if the Blood Boil actually triggers this a lot of times. It might actually, because I think Blood Boil triggers separately off each minion, right, to heal you up. So if you have this equipped and you're damaged a bunch, you Blood Boil, maybe you're going to summon a really huge minion once this Death Rattle goes off. So it looks like a very strong weapon to me. Plus there's a weapon tutor card in DK that's currently not seeing that much play, but it's a pretty strong effect, so maybe this weapon's strong enough to make that card see play also. Also, we've got some Harmonic spells. Harmonic spells, kind of like the flip cards in Witchwood for minions, but these are for spells. So each turn it's going to be Harmonic or Dissonant, and they kind of just flip the effects. So give 4 random minions in your hand +2/+2 for the Harmonic for this spell, and swap it. It's give 2 minions +4/+4. And I guess the Dissonant one for this one is probably a bit stronger if you're playing like a hand buff style effect. Things like Gnome Muncher and I can't remember the name of it, Nerubian something. The 4 mana 1/3 taunt that summons copies of itself would really benefit from this. Imagine doing this on turn 3 and then following up with a bunch of 5/7s, 3/5/7s. That's pretty nutty curve, to be honest. But of course, you have to be on the dissonant metal. So I'm not sure if these change based on what mana cost it is on the turn, like if they change in deck as well, or if it's only when they're in your hand. Once you've drawn them, they start changing. Like maybe it always starts on Harmonic. I'm not sure on that mode yet. But it could be like Thaddeus, where it's certain mana costs, and it always flips in your deck as well. Also got some soloists. These have effects when you control no other minions. We had a look at the Warlock one, which is a 5-mana 4/6 demon. Battlecry, if you control no other minions, deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. Kind of funny that it specifies enemy minions when you can't actually have other minions for the effect to go off. So it's really functioning no different than it's saying to all minions, but pretty decent effect. Having no other minions isn't the hardest requirement, but it's not the nicest of requirements. I'll put it like that. It's hard to snowball an advantage when you have no other minions, so this kind of needs to be in a very control-y style of deck where they're pretty happy to play from behind, and they're not trying to snowball a board advantage so much as trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. Kind of like how quest priests would operate right now, or control priests. Likely the same thing you need for this, so maybe like a control warlock. Your win con could be curses. This isn't like the craziest of board clears. It is kind of expensive at 5 mana to deal 3. It might not clear off board states around that turn compared to something like Entitled Customer, which is rotating. But it's a good effect. It's just whether or not you want to be playing like a very minion light warlock, because if you're playing the imps and stuff, then maybe you don't want to play this as well, because the imps obviously go very wide on board. Also, we got ETC Band Manager. This is a card you can play with now in your decks. This is a free legendary. You just have to log into the game to get it, and you can play it straight away. This is 4-mana 4/4. While building your deck, assemble a band of 3 cards. Battlecry, discover once. So what this means is you make your deck and you put this in as a last card, for example, and you can put 3 extra cards that you haven't put into your deck already into the discover pool for ETC Band Manager. So whenever you play it, he will always give you the chance to discover one of those cards. So it's kind of like sideboarding in Hearthstone, or putting an extra amount of cards into your deck that you couldn't otherwise fill up. I don't think it's super strong. I guess the idea of this, you can put in like very situational cards that you don't normally want to actually play in your deck. Maybe you put like 1 very highly situational card and 1 generic good card, and if the situation comes up with the highly situational card, oh great, I pick that and use it, and it's great, but I don't have the downside of drawing that card when that situation doesn't come up. But the downside for this thing really is the mana cost. Like, it's 4-mana 4/4 discover is quite slow, I would say. And if the situation does come up where it's good, having to pay 4 mana beforehand might mean that situation is just like already gone by, and you don't have the mana to actually react to it. So I'm struggling to find a home for this in decks. It's going to be maybe slower decks where they can afford to do the discover, something like Quest Priest, or it's going to be decks where they have very cheap but very situational cards, or they have deck building restrictions. So what do I mean by that? Maybe something like Big Spell Mage obviously cannot run small spells in their deck, but they can run an ETC Band Manager and suddenly put in something like Flurry or Wildfire into their deck and just discover it through this. And maybe that's pretty good for them, giving them something, giving them access to something that they normally wouldn't be able to get. But let me know what you guys have done with this card. I was struggling a bit to find a home for it where it would actually be very, very good. It seemed a bit mediocre to me in most decks, and maybe even bad. But let me know what you guys think of it. Also got some cool signature cards. They definitely took on some advice and criticisms from the previous set of signatures, because these ones are much more colourful and look very, very good, I would say. Yeah, big improvement, I think. So looking great on those. There are a few more cards we want to go over. Here's just some pre-purchase information. Let's just have a look at some more cards that got revealed. There's a new location for Priest, Fan Club. Restore 3 health to all friendly characters for 1 mana for the location and 2 charges. So this looks like pretty decent. Compared to something like Flash Heal, you don't get as much healing, but you can pre-spend the mana on this, like on turn 1. For instance, you just put it onto the board. And then whenever you do need the healing, you can just trigger it. And then you don't have to spend the mana on later turns. So that's pretty good in itself. And outside of that, it just healing to all friendly characters might help you with a Northshire Cleric turn if Northshire Cleric stays in the core set. As well as the new Overheal cards, this is a good way of triggering them potentially. It just seems like a very nice, flexible location, and even in like slower decks, you might want to consider this as well, just because it's heal 6 for 1 mana, granted over 2 turns, but being able to just bank your mana is really, really good. So I imagine this is very good. It's just a cheap location with decent value, decent tempo. What's not to love? Next, Starlight Groove. This is the legendary spell for Paladin. It's 3 mana, give your hero Divine Shield. For the rest of the game, playing a holy spell refreshes it. Man, this is annoying. This is really annoying. I suppose the real question for this, obviously the effect is good. It's going to gain you a lot of health over the course of the game. Some stuff doesn't care about Divine Shield too much, like if you're playing a very tokeny deck, which almost always has a 1/1 on board, you're pretty fine with this. But there's plenty of decks out there which play kind of just only chunky minions, which are going to care. Obviously, you can ping the opponent's face if you are playing a ping class to negate a bit, but that does cost you mana. So it's not for free. I suppose like how easy it is to refresh this is going to be the question, because while Paladin does have a lot of holy spells, they don't often spam them out every single turn to always have this up. There's Holy Mackie Roll, which you can spam on 1 turn, but it's not going to stack the Divine Shields. It's going to refresh it once anyway. Also, they're losing Night of Anointment. If you've seen my most recent video, I went through all the classes and said what's leaving, and for Paladin they are losing Night of Anointment, so the access to holy spells for Paladin is actually a bit diminished because you don't have that tutor effect anymore. So while this is good, I think it's more flashy or more bark than bite maybe, in how useful it's actually going to be. We'll see. It might be good enough. It just depends if the support is there for it. If there was like Librams, for example, in Paladin, maybe this suddenly gets a lot better because you have the Libram Wisdom that you can just play out every single turn. But for now, it's a wait and see, I think. Next, we've got a neutral legendary. 7 mana, 6/6 all. Battlecry gain a random bonus effect for each minion type you've played this game. So this random bonus effect, it's not quite clear what it means, but what it is like a keyword onto it, like Stealth, Wind Fury, Divine Shield. I think you can maybe get Charge as well. If you can get Charge, this suddenly makes the card a lot stronger. Being able to get Wind Fury Charge for 12 burst damage. Very, very cool. Kind of reminds me of Tiamat, but you do need to be playing a lot of each minion types for this to work. Now, if you play like an Amalgam and trying to cheat the system because the amalgam's got all. You're like, oh, I play one amalgam and then this suddenly has everything. Don't think that's how it's going to work. I think the amalgam's just going to fill out a minion type that you haven't already played. So for instance, if you played elemental and amalgam, then that'll count for 2. But I mean, if you're playing maybe like Murloc Shaman, I could see this working. We've got the Clownfish, which already can discount this. You've got amalgam, and maybe you're playing elementals and stuff as well. So you're going to probably fill out the conditions for this to be a pretty good turn 7 play anyway. Pretty cool effect. I don't think it's very situational. So the only really real class I can see it now is the Shaman with the Clownfish stuff. Next we've got a DK card, Screaming Banshee, 5 mana, 3/6 undead lifesteal. After your hero gains health, summon a soul with that much attack and health. So there's a lot of cards for Blood DK that care about you gaining life in this set, and this is one of them. Imagine you Blood Boil your opponent's board on one turn, then the next turn you drop this. Get a bunch of 2/2s, that's pretty sweet. Obviously this works with Vampiric Blood as well. In that case, if you've got an activated Vampiric Blood, you gain 5, then you gain another 5. So this will summon 2 5/5s alongside it. You also have like Corrupted Ashbringer, which already has lifesteal and 5 attack. So if you play the Ashbringer, then on the next turn you can drop this and swing, and then you've suddenly got a bunch of stats plus this thing. And also this thing's a little bit annoying to clear if you don't have like spell damage removal. They just drop this onto board while they're damaged. If you trade into it, suddenly it's going to be summoning a 3/3 for every trade you have to do into it. So kind of annoying to clear if you're a board-based deck. Pretty interesting. I don't know if it's super strong because it's quite expensive for the effect. It doesn't actually do anything immediately unless you have extra mana to spare or you've prepared with a lifesteal weapon on the previous turn or a Blood Boil on the previous turn, but certainly some potential for some huge swing turns with this for a Blood DK deck, which I think they would very much appreciate. Plus, with like a Blood Boil and things, it's going to summon you a bunch of minions, which helps your corpse counter, which very nice for Blood DK if they're going for corpse explosions. Next, Druid got a very nice 1-drop. Peaceful Piper, 1 mana, 1/1. Choose one, discover a beast. Choose one, draw a beast, or discover one. So this is kind of uncharted territory for a tutor effect in that it can never be completely dead. So say there's like one beast in your deck you really want to get, maybe Kolak, for instance. Probably not that one, but it could be that one. And you just put 2 of these in your deck to always find it. And if you happen to draw the Kolak naturally, well, you can just change this to be discovering a beast instead. And it's never a bad play once you've already tutored the card you want to tutor. So it seems a very, very flexible card for all sorts of Druid decks. Aggro Druids, for sure. There's a bunch of beasts you can discover for them. But just even slower Druids, if there's just any beast you want to get, this seems like a fine play. So really, really good card, I think. We have Hipster. This is 2 mana, 1/3. Battlecry, discover a spell from your opponent's class that isn't in their deck. So this is a bit like Pandaren Importer, but for your own opponent's stuff. So maybe there's a chance for, Turtle Rogue to come back if your opponent is very kind and builds the deck for you to face. And then maybe you can do your Shadow Step shenanigans, but realistically, no. How good is this card for serious purposes? Well, Pandaren Importer wasn't very good on its own as a standalone card. And this one, you're kind of less likely to get the synergies for it than your own class, I would say. So, not great, but if there's something like Thief Rogue as an archetype, I think they'll run this card. But it remains to be seen what the core set looks like, whether Thief Rogue can still be an archetype or not. It's not like a bad card though, by any means. 2 mana 1/3 Discover. It's pretty decent. There's a few more cards here that were revealed. Sorry for the bad formatting, but this is the only pictures I could find of them. One of them is Beatboxer. This is a new rogue minion, 3 mana 4/3 mech. Combo, deal 4 damage randomly split among all enemies. So a bit like SI7 Agent, but a better effect because it does more face damage on an empty board, does a bit better into more minions, does more damage. It's got the mech tag, it's got a bit more attack. It seems pretty decent, and obviously you can combo with the new weapon because it cares about combo cards. So maybe there'll be a combo style archetype for Rogue, and this will fit nicely in. It's obviously very good with Shadow Step as well, so maybe Shadow Step staying in the core set. Maybe it isn't. This kind of implies that it might do. Shaman's got a card reveal. Brass Elemental. 4 mana 3/3 Elemental. Rush, Divine Shield, Taunt, Windfury. I love the art for this one. A lot of keywords. Rush, Divine Shield, Taunt, Windfury. On a 3/3. So a bit like Restless Mummy if you're trading into 2 minions where this will die. But it's going to be better in almost every scenario. You can quite easily value trade with the second half of Divine Shield into like the highest attack creature to kill that one, and then value trade with the 3/3. It's pretty good. Also on an empty board, Divine Shield Windfury is actually pretty threatening against a lot of decks. Also has Taunt, which Restless Mummy does not have, which is relevant. It just seems like an all-round solid minion. There's not too much elemental synergy, I believe, left in Shaman with the rotation, but there is a little bit. So yeah, just as a solid all-round minion. And especially if there's any way to like hand buff this, it suddenly gets a lot stronger. But there isn't currently any way to do that in Shaman, I don't believe. Also, I think the last card we have to talk about is this one, the Void Virtuoso. 1 mana 1/3 demon. During your turn, your hero is immune. So maybe this implies there's going to be some self-damage archetypes for Warlock to go alongside this. A lot of the other cards that synergize with self-damaging don't exist with the rotation. Stealer of Souls is getting rotated, but that one would be kind of disgusting with this. But 1 mana 1/3 demon. It's not an imp, but it's not like a bad stat line for a minion. And the effect kind of can be insane depending on what the rest of Warlock's set looks like. But we'll have to wait and see on this one, I think. But that's all the cards. I hope you liked my little mini review. We'll do some more of these as cards get revealed, talk about all of them, and then we'll do a big set review right at the end. Very excited about this set. It's a really good flavor. Looks like a really fun expansion. So everything looking very, very good. Hope you liked the video, and see you guys next time.